Hello, Intertubers, and welcome to another round, the final round, in fact, of Opinionated ship reviews. So, since we're doing the ships in increasing order of size, the final set of ships will be the big cargo haulers, which are good for trading, but often not so good for fighting. And this might be one example. This one is the Transporter. This is actually a ship from the original Elite. You would sometimes see them in Elite travelling between the space station and the planet, because in Elite you could only dock at space stations, so something had to transport cargo between the station and the planet, and this was it. But it's now the year 3203, or whatever, and atmospheric shielding is a thing, and starports are a thing, which means all these things became obsolete. So someone's had the bright idea of dumping them in the civilian ship market, and here we are. As a trading ship, 160 tons is not bad. As a fighter, 9Gs forward and 4Gs backward. That's a painful step down from the Asp. It does have one possible redeeming feature, which is 3 gun mountings, forward, backward, and a top turret. Another cute feature is that this weighs exactly 200 tons, and because the hyperspace constant is 200 light years per ton, these hyperspace ranges, they're the square numbers. This one that says 0 should be 1, although I don't think anyone would do that. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, the first 5 square numbers. And that 25 light year jump range, I don't think that's really possible. I think there would be insufficient fuel. But whatever. Let's launch it. Wheel the undercarriage. This is a kind of a blocky, bricky kind of a shape. Even from the front, I mean, it's big. It's an easy target, and it's also a slow target, which is not great. Still, if we look at the ship stats, as a trader, it's pretty good, plenty of space, and I think this is the perfect size, really, for a Class 3 drive. 9 light year jump range. I mean, you're not doing assassination missions with this, but for trading, it's fine. So, now I'm going to do something slightly ill-advised and jump into a dangerous system with this thing. So, have we picked up a welcoming committee? Yes, we have. So, one thing that's immediately noticeable, it's hard for me to point this ship in the direction of the enemy. It's just takes way too long to turn it around. I mean, it's fine for precision work, like small adjustments, but just to turn this thing around, it turns so slowly, which is a pain if the enemy spawns in behind you. Or if the enemy's just flying. And the effectiveness of this ship really depends on one question, which is, do you have any principles? And are you willing to pause the game, get into your turret, and fire the turret? Because if you do, you can spend as much time as you like lining up the turret to face the enemy and then kill it instantly if it's small with a single hit from a pulse laser. But if you're not dogfighting with this, it's kind of a pain. You need a high power beam laser, and you need to pray that your aim is better than the enemy. And I'm really not very good at this. Like, I am not a fan of this ship. sometimes the beam laser duel. The only option, and bad. Yes, I think you can tell where this is going. So, I will say this ship is fine if you want to trade in very safe systems. But as a fighter, it's hopeless. 2 stars. Next up, we have the Lion Transport. Getting really big now. This is a 300-ton ship. Has 3 gun mountings, front, back, and top turret, like before, and for some reason 8 missiles. That's kind of crazy. But the real problem with this ship is right here. 5 forwards and 3 back. That is appalling. It's absolutely terrible. Like, the only thing worse than this ship is the lifter, and that doesn't really count. Among ships that actually come with a hyperspace drive fitted as standard, this is the slowest, the unparalleled slowest ship in the game. Well, because there's 5 Gs forward, it's awful. And that's not its only problem either. I mean, you also need 3 extra stupid people who want to fly this ship for you. Crew of 4, anyway. I'll do the same thing and try to go to this dodgy system. So, okay, yeah, wheelie undercarriage. It looks nice. It has it sort of looks a bit like a space shuttle here, and has some very interesting curves. See, the Frontier engine can natively handle curved shapes like this, which is interesting. But now we see some problems. First of all, quite noticeable, hyperspace range of 6. That's bad. That's really bad. For kind of boring milk runs between Sol and Barn and Star, yeah, you can just do that. And maybe that's all this thing is good for. Because its shape is terrible. It's just, these wings make it a really, really big target. And when we combine that with the fact that it is the slowest ship in the game, it's going to get hit. Oh, it does carry 8 missiles, so someone, I guess, intended this be taken into combat. But there's a small problem, which is you might be attacked by 9 ships, and if you are, you're dead. And it looks like this is what's happening here. There's another problem as well. In most ships, the front camera is mounted slightly above the front laser mount, so that the laser appears to be coming from the bottom of the screen in a little triangle. In the Lion, that's not the case. The front laser mount and the front camera mount are identical, which means when you fire the laser, this bullshit happens. This is annoying, this is really distracting, and just adds to the problems you're going to have trying to fight. So, you could use the rear mount, you could fly this backwards, which means it effectively would have a forward thrust of 3 Gs. Or you could use the turret. Turret's fine, except for one slight issue. You have to be careful not to hit your own wings! Ouch! So let's see if I can... Well, at least this Osprey will take time to beat down my shields. This is bullshit. I can't see what I'm doing. I did actually get it, but only because it crashed into me. Yeah, it's also such a pain to try to aim this thing. Hey, at least I got that one. Like, no one should have to put up with this. Green ship. Ah! You can't... You just can barely dodge anything with this stupid big slow ship. Did that missile hit me? I think that missile might have hit me. This is terrible. And we seem to be afflicted by the weird bug which causes the ship to briefly gain the traits of the missile. You know, this ship... It's just... Yeah, keep ECMing back. This is a naval missile. I do buy the best. So I guess because of the bug that causes your ship to recoil backwards at absurd speed when launching a missile, this missiles might be useful just for making some distance between yourself and the enemy. And another problem, because this ship is so slow, if this guy doesn't want to be caught, I can't catch up to him. Yeah, well, I think there's only one thing for it. I think we all know what these missiles are really for. Except because of the bug, the missiles, they can't even catch me. Fortunately, we have a turret. One crap! This ship is abysmal! Like, you could use it for trading, but don't. Next up we have the Tiger Trader. We're now up to a massive 400 tons in size, and although this is bigger than the last two ships, the main thruster and retro thruster are actually decent. I mean, 12 forward and 5 backwards is reasonable. Like, it's not... It can't outmaneuver the smaller fighters by any means, but it can at least put up a decent showing. One single missile pylon might be a bit of an issue if you really like missiles, but I don't, and they're buggy. So, anyway. Yeah, 80% efficient hull, and this is a pretty good sized ship for a class 4 drive. Like, you get the standard 8 light years, which is a little bit low for me. You do of course have the high octane option. You can fit a class 5 drive and have a massive 12.5 light years, which I think that really should be enough for anyone on a trader. I suppose I should mention, I've seen this very silly configuration in an assassination target. But I'd never do that myself. So anyway, undercarriage, tiny little wheels at this point. Now this ship is kind of fat. It's a big and blocky shape. And if you're pointing your top turret towards the enemy, you're a big target. But you can be a reasonably tough target, because we're now getting to the point where I can fit 10 shield generators and still have a very respectable amount of space left. So let's have some fun. Did I pick up any unwanted guests? Not sure that I did. Okay, well that's something. Let's try it. Oh, did I accidentally fit a really high power laser? Well, I'm not going to complain. I mean, a 4 megawatt laser is probably fine for this ship. Still kind of tricky, but still, in general, I just fly towards the enemy, and even if I fail to shoot them down, they'll just hit me and get splattered like a bug against the windscreen that is my 10 shield generators. The only thing that really threatens me would be the big ships like the Asp with the Constrictor, and of course the dreaded Imperial Courier. But you can see I'm doing much better here. I'm having very little difficulty killing these clowns, and I'm taking very little fire. And that would seem to be it. So this is a very nice ship. I think it's decent as a trader, and its speed is enough that it can look after itself in a fight, and that's really all I can ask of it. I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. It's pretty good at this size, but if you like, light to medium traders with good combat stats, just wait till you see the next ship. So now we have the Imperial Courier, the pride of the Imperial fleet. This thing is a beast. It weighs in at 480 tons, but it handles almost like a medium fighter. 16 forward and 6 backwards. That's I think the same stats as the Cobra Mark 1. So it doesn't quite match the really good stuff like the Constrictor or the Asp, but it's decent. One slightly annoying thing is it only has a single gun mounting at the front. This is kind of like a badge of pride for this ship, the idea being that it really is capable of pointing itself towards the enemy. Can be a bit tricky though. There's a lot of missiles, and the crew, this actually depends on what version of Elite for Frontier you've got. In some games this was a single-seater fighter, but I think in the more recent releases, relatively speaking, the required crew is 3. It only needing 1 crew was a bug. So, I'm going to go on a little trip here, but for the moment. Undercarriage is really weird. This is it with its undercarriage out. To bring the undercarriage up, it actually extends these engine thingies on little pylons, and they start spinning, which is nice. And if I go to engines off, you have this very pretty engine flare. See, this is a very good looking ship. I can't deny that. No animation for reverse thrust, but forward thrust, very nice. And this is the only configuration available, really. Class 5 military drive. 10 and a bit light years, it's pretty good. You actually can't replace the hyperspace drive with another one, except that you kind of can. If this ship takes damage, or if any ship takes damage, its drive might turn into an interplanetary drive plus so much rubbish. If that happens, you can then fit a new drive, but under normal circumstances you can't replace the drive. But that's not really a problem. because this is kind of the perfect size for a Class 5 drive anyway. Now, it is big and a kind of an easy target, but its weird spindly shape does make it harder to hit than most other ships this size. Let's see, have I collected the traditional Reed Quatian welcome? Yes, I have. Handling is still a bit iffy. It's a little bit sluggish, but it's not as bad as other ships. Constrictor or boa or cobra. Yeah, the fact of the matter is, this ship is big. It means you can fit a lot of weapons and shield generators to it, and it's also agile enough to shoot down the enemy. In fact, it's probably better to fit a slightly more powerful beam laser, but even against another Imperial Courier, this seems fine. Yeah, and even if some enemies are really troublesome and hard to shoot down, just fly into them. Yeah, this ship is fantastic. I mean, it's big enough that you can make a decent, light to medium trader out of it, although that is kind of like taking a Ferrari and ripping out the two back seats and the back half of the roof and calling it a pickup truck. Like, you can do that, and it would work pretty well, but you're taking something really cool and using it to do something boring. Like, this ship is for action. I think I'm going to give it a 5 stars. Yeah, it's that good. Next on the list is the Python. Game's calling it a freighter, and that's pretty reasonable. Slightly larger than the Imperial Courier, with a noticeably more capacity. But this really is a freighter rather than a fighter. 10 forward and 4 backward is not good. On top of that, we don't have a turret. We only have the forward and backward gun mountings, and that can be a real pain. Let me zoom out on this. So, undercarriage is a very big pair of skis, which magically shrink when they're retracted into the ship's hull. Don't ask me how that works. So you've got this shark tooth design here, which it never really looks good. And yeah, it's big and it's pointy. Now this actually comes with a Class 4 hyperdriver standard. I really don't like that. I think you should probably upgrade to the Class 5. I mean, it depends on just how boring you want to be. You'll be really frustrated with the Class 4 if you're doing anything other than boring trade routes between Sol and Barn and Star. So anyway, can this thing look after itself in combat? We'll see. It's like a fat man swimming in treacle. Also, very weird camera placement here. The laser is actually popping out of the ship. That's a very odd place. Yeah, there you go, there's a good view of it. That doesn't make a lot of sense. still, it's... Even if it's a bug, it's a harmless one. Just have to get used to it. Yeah, sadly this thing is big, it's going to get hit. So, you know, you just fit a lot of shields. I think I've got 15 on this thing. And just, I hope your aim is good, and don't be afraid to ram, because you're almost certainly bigger than anything that's attacking you. It's actually doing surprisingly well. It's partly because the pointy shape means it's not the biggest target from the front. I mean, it's still kind of big, but with enough shields and firepower, you can kind of make a big, slow ship into not exactly a fighter, more like a flying tank. This will be the real test. Even the Imperial Courier goes down. Well, that's a little bit of a surprise, but considering this actually did okay in combat, and of course its size makes it a decent trader, I think I have to give this one 3.5 stars. Next up we have the Imperial Trader, which is the Imperial Courier's big brother. It's looks very similar in design to the Imperial Courier, but you're not getting the main selling point of the Courier, which is amazingly fast speed. This is 9 forward and 4 backwards, basically average for a ship of this size. It still looks pretty, so that's nice, I suppose. Also, as this is a substantially bigger ship, needs more people to operate it. A crew of 6. That includes the pilot, so you need 5 extra people. So the undercarriage is exactly the same as the Courier. You bring the undercarriage up by dropping these pylons down. And yeah, again, very nice triple engine flare there. So yeah, this ship has an inefficient hull, and sadly you're not really getting anything for it other than style points. So they call this a trader, but its big fat hull cuts into trading space for no great benefit. Also, because it's a trader, it would be completely unreasonable to subject this to the same test that we as I gave to the Courier, right? Yeah, this should be fun. Let's see. Have we gained a... have we? Yes, we certainly have. Alright, I might have to edit that fight down a bit, but we'll see how I do. This thing is noticeably more sluggish than the Courier. It's not a great start. Where even is it? Right. The small ships are... the small ships might actually be the greater danger here because they're so hard to hit. Although we'll see about that. Yeah, this ain't gonna be fun. Okay, having an insanely powerful laser really helps. And the ship is big enough that you can reasonably fit it. Here's a load up 15 shield generators, 20 megawatt beam laser at the front. And still, you can do some trading with this. Yeah, my hull's just been chipped away bit by bit. Right, even an Eagle with a 5 megawatt pulse laser is a bit of a threat to this ship. A second Imperial Courier. Well, I somehow survived, but this repair bill is going to be monstrously expensive. Right, this ship, the problem is it's kind of an easy target and doesn't quite have enough space to make itself into a real flying tank. It's slower than the Panther, and the lack of a turret is really starting to hurt. I have to give this one 3 stars. I mean, it's not bad, but you should probably stay away from reed quads. Next up we have the Anaconda, and the ships really are getting very big now. This was the biggest ship in the original Elite, at least according to the manual, and we've broken the 1 million credit barrier for cost. And it really is a bit of a monster, weighing in at 800 tons. As a trader, that's not bad, because being big's good for a trader, but it's painfully slow. 6 Gs forward and 3 G back. That's not very good, and that's well, get used to that, because it's the standard for ships in the the giant freighter size category. Now you can see these skis here. They're kind of big, and that's a bit of an issue. Look at what happens when I launch. I'm taking damage. Ouch! What's going on? The fact that I'm taking damage while paused is really obnoxious, by the way. So, you did actually see that. This ship is so fat, it has enormous difficulty just getting out of the space station. You can, of course, land on planets. That works. The other way to deal with this is kind of ridiculous, but when you launch, you need to switch to engines off as soon as possible, hold the engines down, and press the maximum acceleration key, and that's got us out of the space station without any hull damage. But the fact that you have to do that is ridiculous. I don't think they tested this ship. Most other ships, there are bigger ships than this, and none of those have that problem. So there must be something odd about this ship's model. Maybe these giant skis are too big. Maybe it's off centre, so the top is hitting the space station. Anyway, undercarriage is a very large pair of skis which fold up nicely, but I have to wonder what happens to these vertical struts here. Where do they go? Best not to think about that too hard. So the one nice thing about this ship, hull is efficient, just above 80%. Gives you plenty of space for either equipment or trading, and the standard drive gives you 9 light years. I'm happy with that. The ship is it's big, it's pointy, and yeah, not a lot of polygons because it's from the original Elite. I mean, from the front, I mean, this is reasonably compact shape, but its size, you know, it's big. Hopefully the 20 shield generators will protect me. This is also the largest ship without any turrets and the slowest ship without any turrets, so that can make combat a little bit painful. Oh, this is so painfully slow to turn. Fortunately, it doesn't matter if it's just air fighters. Bug, windshield. Ouch, this guy has a high-powered big pulse laser. Well, I survived. That, I have to say, is not particularly unusual. We do have another weird problem where the laser emanation point's not actually connected to the ship, hence it's appearing to come out of nowhere. Not a big deal. So I'm going to give this one 1 star, because you could avoid space stations and only land on planets, and then you just have to deal with it being terrible in combat.
Shit, she's got a fat ass.
Next up we have the Puma. This thing weighs in at a whole kiloton, and it has the lack of speed that you kind of expect for a monstrous ship this size. The good thing about this is the ships are now big enough to have 4 gun mountings. That's front and back, and more importantly, top and bottom turret. So hold on my launch. So this ship looks a bit funny. I mean, it kind of looks like, imagine an Eagle Mark 1 that's eaten way too much chocolate-covered military fuel. It's kind of fat and bloated with these ridiculous little wings on the back that really are not going to do anything in space, and I can't see them doing much in an atmosphere either. So, undercarriages, bunch of wheels, including some very big wheels at the front. Yeah, we're back to wheels for some reason. Now, this ship has a decently efficient hull, like 82% is the best so far. I have to say, I don't like the standard drive. I mean, you can get by with 7 light years, but I don't like it, so I will usually upgrade. Slight problem with this is that these high-class drives are not very efficient. They're noticeably less efficient than the Class 3 and the Class 4, and that means they're really cutting into trading space. Still, there's plenty of, even with the drive and all my equipment installed, I have plenty of space for trading, at almost 200 tons. Yeah, I picked up a few unwanted guests that should do for demonstration purposes. Now, the good thing about this ship is you get 2 turrets. I'm currently in the top turret, and I can scroll around here, and just when you go down below the ship, it automatically switches to bottom turret. So it's reasonably easy to shoot things down because I now have full coverage of almost every angle. There is just one slight problem, which is to do with this ship's fat rear end. If I fire the laser from the back and then go down to the bottom turret, yeah, notice the problem? Every time I go through the back, I'm clipping a bit off my own shield. Not a huge deal, but there is a bit of a blind spot at the back, and well, shooting yourself in the arse is maybe worse than just merely having a blind spot. But there you go. Like, at this point, I'm not even bothering to turn the autopilot off. There really is no point. This ship is gigantic and horrendously slow. It's going to get hit, but no matter what I do. So I'm just concentrating on shooting down the enemies. Yeah, there's some slightly odd camera placement in these turrets. So high power laser, and you do have to buy 2, of course, 1 for each turret. But high power laser is wrecking these guys almost instantly when it touches them. Clipped myself there. I think that's the most damage I've taken so far. Accidentally banging myself with my own laser. So this is actually a pretty good ship, and the first one that can really be converted into a proper flying tank. It also has pretty good turret placement. It's difficult to shoot itself with the turrets, and that's actually kind of rare. So for that reason, I'm going to give this one 4 stars. It has a huge cargo bay for trading, and you can fill it with stuff that makes it able to defend itself very well. This next ship is the biggest of the big pointy things, the Boa Freighter. It's absolutely huge at 1,500 tons, and it's actually slightly fast for its size. 8 and 4 is better than the standard 6 and 3, although really not by much. This is also the largest ship that can have a fuel scoop installed, so if you want to explore the galaxy, or if you want to make money by scooping fuel, which is profitable but very boring, this ship could be the ship for you. Unlike other ships I could mention, this thing has 0 difficulty getting out of the space station. Undercarriage is skis, which is pretty standard for the big pointy things. So yeah, basically a big wedge-shaped thing, low polygon count because this is from the original Elite. Now this is in some ways a very nice ship. It has an efficient hull, 86% is really, really good. Only one ship is better. There's lots of space inside this thing, although a noticeable chunk of that space is taken up by the integrated Class 8 drive. I know it says 9 here, the drive is called Class 8, but it performs like a Class 9. And that gives this ship a very respectable hyperspace range of almost 11 light years. That's really good on a trader, especially a trader this size. There is one slight problem. Because the drive is integrated, you cannot replace it with another drive, not that you'd really want to, but you also cannot replace it if it gets destroyed. So if you take so much damage that this drive turns into an interplanetary drive, you have to replace the entire ship to fix that problem, and that can be a bit annoying. Let's turn around, let's break that. So, this is another ship with 2 turrets, top and bottom. Unfortunately, wedge-shaped ships and turrets do not mix very well. So I'm shooting forwards, but if I have to shoot backwards, there is a slight problem here. I'm shooting holes in my own shields. And that's the top turret. The bottom turret is even worse. So if I look backwards through the bottom turret, see these things, these are the engine flares, but you don't see any ship. Why is that? Backface culling. Yep, that's right. The bottom turret is located inside the ship. That means no matter what angle you fire it from, you will damage yourself. And that's not great. Let's hope this guy's attacking me from the top, eh? I'm not sure if this pathetic little beam laser can actually knock down my shields. Ha, got him. Huh. Another guy attacking from below. That's just unfair. I've got to wait for him to get up here and then pop him like a balloon. Well, this promises to be an annoying fight. That's an air fighter. You know what? I'm just going to go engines off and fire the rear thrusters. Yep, that works. So you know, if I suddenly switch from 8Gs forward to 4Gs back, that will occasionally catch these clowns by surprise. So yeah, reverse thrusting now, and splat. Huh, attacking from the top, that's very nice of him. And he's gone to the bottom. Like, you can try to hit the things with the front laser. It's not completely ridiculous, but this thing really is painfully slow to turn. Like, I'm doing my best here. I mean, that works, I suppose. It's like... so painful to turn this thing. Although, I'm really not sure what to say about this ship. If all you want to do is trade, it's okay, but bad turret placement really hurts it. I think I'm going to give it 2 stars because of that. Next up we have the Panther Clipper. This is the biggest ship in the game, well at least the biggest ship that commanders are allowed to fly. Its internal capacity is gigantic at 2,000 tons, although some of that will be taken up by the integrated Class 8 drive. Main thruster speed and retro thruster speed are of course terrible, but I'm not sure what you could expect from a ship this size. It does have the standard 4 gun mountings, including 2 turrets, and I think that's all we really need. So I just want to pause and go outside to demonstrate one thing, which is this ship is shaped like a brick, and it's kind of exactly the size of the docking tunnel. I mean, it's slightly smaller, so that it's possible to get it in without scratching the paint. Although I wouldn't trust the autopilot to do that. Make sure you have some shields on this monster. And oh yeah, this right here, this is not a bug, at least not at my end. This ship really does have a negative hull mass.
Is it bigger?
Yes.
On the inside.
I mean, you can tell from the in-game stats, it has 2,000 tons of internal capacity, but when fully loaded, it only weighs 17,075.
I need to concentrate.
There it is.
Yep, I know where you're going with this, but I need you to calm down.
On the outside.
You can also prove that from the hyperspace range. Its hyperspace range is only slightly less than the boa, which means it's only slightly heavier, at least on the outside.
My entire understanding of physical space has been transformed.
A ship this size would normally have, like say, 300 or 400 tons of hull. In fact, you get minus 225 tons of hull.
Three-dimensional Euclidean geometry has been torn up, thrown in the air, and snubbed to death.
And that adds up to you having about 600 tons of space that you just shouldn't have.
My grasp of the universal constants of physical reality has been changed forever.
So I get to kit this ship out with absolutely ridiculous loadout, like 100 shield generators, plus the energy booster, which will make the shield generators charge even faster. And even if by some miracle something gets through that, I have the whole auto repair system. And that will cause my hull to slowly repair over time. I think realistically the only thing that's going to get through the shields is a kamikaze attack from an Imperial Courier. So undercarriage is cute. What happens is the main engine, which is on the side of the ship, transformed into 4 separate engines, all pointing down. And then they turn back into 2 engines pointing forwards. That's very nice. Now, you might think that a brick is a very uninspired spaceship design, but there is one good thing about a brick, and that is turrets. A brick has a flat top and a flat bottom, and that means that the turrets have an excellent field of fire and cannot be used to shoot the ship. It can only shoot other people. Well, I like this space station. I'm going to hose down with a laser fire to see what happens. What happens is launching police. Now, I'd like to demonstrate that they can just sit here indefinitely and tank the police. Unfortunately, you notice that that door on the space station is closing a little bit early and popping the police like balloons. Still, that missile got me, which knocked off a full 5% off my shields, which was then regenerated almost immediately. That going down to 80% was 2 police ships hitting me. And again, boing. I have to say, I do appreciate the mechanics here, where colliding with something will affect your speed. Police are not very good at this. Is that it? I think this space station is out of police. Final warning, leave the area now or your ship will be destroyed. Make me. Failure to obey traffic control. Oh no. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to ram the rotating outer section of the space station. And it seems that I can tank this collision with the space station without much difficulty. In fact, my shields are slowly going down, and that's so that's a little bit unfortunate. I probably need maybe 150 shield generators to properly tank this. Still, it's certainly taking its time. Let's go somewhere more interesting. So, have I picked up any? Yeah, that's a decent amount of attackers. So once again, I'm not even going to bother turning off the autopilot. Wait, did I? Oh, I did actually attack myself. Okay, it's possible. Difficult but possible. I could just let this guy fire open up on me with that, but that laser's pathetic. Even if he manages to hit me with it, and I'll give him time, I don't think it can bash my shields down as fast as they can regenerate. In fact, I'm not sure even the 4 megawatt beam laser can bash my shields down as fast as they regenerate. Let's see what this asp is armed with. Yeah, that's a decent beam laser. Come on, point the laser at me, you dumbass. Okay, yeah, he can take my shields down, but it certainly takes him a while. Another one, this is a Cobra Mark 1. Sorry, Mark 3. Some random purple ship. I doubt this can even hurt me. One advantage of being a really big ship is that they'll often just ram into you. And this adder's keeping his distance. Let's see, over there, alright. Unfortunate camera placement on this turret. Doesn't really matter. Thing is, I mean, this ship is just, in this configuration, it's such a tank. I don't even feel threatened by these fighters with the high power beam lasers. Like, this is a constrictor. A mine, really? on, hit me with that laser. I think he's actually a little bit confused by the fact that I'm not doing anything. Come on. Yeah. Yeah, see, so you can very slowly get me with this laser, but it requires a long time of sustained contact. And all I need is that. Ooh, the pulse laser. Can this get my shields down? Yes, it's a real struggle for him to beat my shields down. And that would seem to be the end of that. So, I'm going to give this ship 4.5 stars. And it certainly has its problems, like it's really slow. But as a trader and a tank, it simply can't be beat. Like, this has a gigantic cargo hold and can still be fitted out to be virtually indestructible. So yeah, 4.5 stars. I love this ship.